Welcome back to State of the Nation. The revelations and actions of the Kaduna State Governor Malam Nasir El-Rufai to sack 22,000 teachers for many has exposed the rot in the education sector. The governor has insisted he is not going back on his action. How much more revelations can we have from his steps, which the president has largely supported? Segun Akabashorun, the former deputy chairman, Ikosi local government area, joins me on State of the Nation. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on the show at this time. The question is, should the governor go back on his action when you look at the NUT, for instance, that is really kicking at this?
No, I mean, I wouldn't expect him to go back if he already has a well thought out plan of what he wants to achieve. Many people, there are people who support and there are people who are asking him, not necessarily against what he's doing, but they are pleading for leniency, that should have a better or softer landing for those teachers because of the need for the crisis that vacuum may create. However, that being said, we are expecting the governor to have a well thought out plan, that before he made that decision, he already knew how to recruit more or new teachers, because he says he's recruiting 25,000 teachers.
Where's he going to get them from?
Well, that's what I mean by a well thought out plan. However, we are discussing the significance of his action. There's so much rot in the education system. We all know it's not new to Nigerians. We see the level of competencies of our students, graduates, and able to even put together a proper sentence. And you are almost taken aback that when did this start? Where do you pinpoint the problem?
But is this peculiar to the north?
No, it's not actually. It's a general problem nationwide. And you see people in Lagos as well, that you call a metropolitan city. You find people, of course, Kaduna too is, but a mega city like Lagos, where you find many students who are in secondary school who are not supposed, you'll be surprised what kind of education, what kind of teaching, because of their competency. It's so way below the standards that you expect of secondary school. Now, if we cannot start from secondary school, you have to start from primary education. Because primary education, my problem when I say a well thought out solution that the governor El-Rufai is trying to implement, I hope it is well thought out. Because it's not just the sacking of teachers. There's the issue with the rot in the education system. We have to revamp it. Because one, I've said it here before, when it comes to local governance, we have left primary education in the hands of local government. And here shows one of the lacunas that could be created when you do such things. When you left the whole of primary education in the hands of local governance, here is El-Rufai telling us that we had teachers that were being employed by local government council chairmen arbitrarily, whether they are friends, family, or party loyalties, they were employed without competency. And eventually, they gave them almost 5 years to prepare for the NCE, for the competency test. And they failed after almost waiting 5 years for them to catch up. And he said, enough is enough. We need to get rid of these teachers, because the solution is to outright sacking. Because the level of education that they have is way below for them to impact on the children.
So, because if it's not willing or ready to compromise education standards in Kaduna State, especially with this action of sacking 22,000 teachers, what then must be the way forward? Because if you look at it critically, some people are already raising questions, saying that perhaps it's not only about the teachers, perhaps it's just trying to cut down on the workforce in the state.
Well, that's what I see. It has to be well thought out. And that's what I said. When you make a decision, you have to be able to tell us the plan, the start, the beginning, the mid-term and the long-term effect of such a plan. And we knew where I grew up during the time when our free education started, and I remembered very well. We all knew what the plan was. The plan was to get as many people into the school system as fast as possible. Some will not be given the proper education, they will be rushed into the process, but they will have the foundation to move forward. And now we are talking about bad foundation. The foundation in Kaduna, as an example, and we know this is generally in Nigeria, but the foundation has to change. This is the governor who has said, I want to champion it. I love renegades. I love people who want to challenge the status quo. If he challenges the status quo because he has a plan,
how much of a challenge?
Well,
how much of a challenge? Because you have a budget that is less than 70 billion naira in the 2018 budget. How much of a challenge will that give the education sector and to right some of the systemic rots that you're talking about?
See, this is where the point is, that it has to be well thought out, because what is the long-term plan of the governor? This cannot be a political decision. It cannot be a decision you make haphazardly. You cannot do that, because eventually it will have the fallback will be greater than what you were trying to achieve. Because if you are sacking people, getting rid of 22,000 people, and you're bringing in 25,000 new new teachers rather, you have to make sure there will be no vacuum in the system. And the new people you are bringing, what time do you have to train them for them to be competent enough to achieve what you want? Because education, or teaching rather, it's not just the knowledge you have to impact. You have to impact on the skills that you give those kids. And then you impact on their behavioral attitude that will help them in the future. Because a teacher must be knowledgeable enough to know if this young kid is imbibing the knowledge or not, or this young kid is starving or has issues at home that is not allowing the kid to focus, or this kid has autism or has other behavioral attitude problems. So it's not just the impacting of knowledge. So you need to train these teachers specifically for those purposes.
Do you think you just
don't get the teachers off the counters?
Do you think the 75% cutoff mark for this compulsory test in Kaduna State, is that fair?
I will not be in a competent position to say that. For some, say it's 60% is fair enough, but I'm not in a competent position to say whether it is fair. I think the governor made a decision. I think what the Nigerian Union of Teachers should do, if I have the interests of Nigerians and the future of Nigerians at heart, what I would tell the governor is, yes, we appreciate your intention. You want to sanitize this system. We would help you to sanitize this system. However, these are solutions that we have that we would like you to inculcate or integrate into your own ideology or your own plan. And this is what they should be doing. This is the way forward. And I think that will bring a lasting solution. So the questions you are asking me now, whenever we find out that the governor has not thought out properly, then people like the National Union, agencies, organizations like National Union of Teachers will be able to come in and fill those gaps where he has not thought it out well.
Look at those results. These are some of the results that is coming through on the screen.
Yeah.
And it does show, we're able to look at some of them critically. And the level, you marvel, that teaching a primary 4 pupil and then having a teacher who ought to teach the primary 4 to pass is unable to go through some of the simplest questions here.
How do you defend that?
Is that the way you would expect that a 21st century education sector?
It's amazing. This is a problem that has been there for decades. And many people have preferred solutions.
If that's the case, yes. If that's the case, if it has been there for decades, you say, is this one singular action by the Kaduna State Governor enough to begin a process of fixing the rots in the education sector?
Well, I think for the fact that we are sitting down here today, it has started to it has started this, what you call
a spiral effect.
A spiral effect. Hopefully, that the whole issue of, or the fear that people have had, that there will be a fallout if you sack thousands of people overnight, or that the heavens are going to fall. No, nothing's going to happen.
What about the children in school?
No, of course, I am mindful, and believe me, I pray. But the fear is this. I have said it over and over. As much as I want to support El-Rufai here, I'm supporting him on the basis that change is very difficult and hard. However, I pray this is so well thought out. And if it is not thought out, we want those institutions, those organizations to step in and fill in those gaps where the governor has not thought out for the long-term effect of his actions.
You know about the structural challenges we face in this country. One of them, especially the education sector and the health sector.
Yes.
They are facing some of the greatest challenges ever in the history of this country.
Yes,
if we're to begin the process of, say, righting the wrongs within, let's start with the education sector because we're focusing on that today, beginning to right the structural defects in the system. And we have a budget of just less than 70 billion. If we increase that budget, for instance, if there's a supplementary budget to go with that, and we say increase it to about 150 billion for 2018, do you think that the structure will be able to support fixing of some of these problems?
Well, Not necessarily. That's why we need to be well thought out, because education is so amazing. It's so hard to judge by the amount of money you put in, that's the result you get. You can put so much money and you may not get the results. That is why it's a process that you must follow through. You cannot, if there is a shortfall in the process, whether at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end, it's a wasted effort.
So where do we start from?
So we have to go back to the drawing board and start afresh with a clean slate. Now, what he's trying to do, I hope, is that he's starting afresh with a clean slate and saying, I'm not only sacking teachers, I want to sanitize the educational institution in Kaduna as an example for the rest of Nigeria. In Kaduna, and in doing that, I want to call all the stakeholders that are involved in education to bring solutions that I want to integrate into what I want. I will share my vision with them and say, this is what I don't want. I want
we'll have to close now. Oh. Thank you so much indeed. I know it's a very passionate topic that we could go on forever.
Yes.
I want to thank you so much indeed. Segun
Akabashorun
is the former Deputy Chairman of the Ikosi Local Government Area. Thank you so much indeed for talking to us and to you, for being part of the show. I am Gimba Umar. Join me tomorrow for a fresh package. Until then, this is State of the Nation.